Lately in the NFL, the national anthem has caused a little bit of controversy. We've got players kneeling during the anthem. We've got players sitting down. We have whole teams staying in their locker rooms during the national anthem. And as this controversy grows bigger and bigger, a lot of people have pointed to Colin Kaepernick as the man who started it. Now, while that is true on this issue, today I'm going to tell you about an NBA player whose career was ruined by a national anthem controversy. Yes, I'm talking about a player who in college averaged 30 points a game as a freshman. I'm talking about a man who many have compared to Steph Curry. I'm talking about a player who feels like he was blackballed from the NBA. And before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. If you want to get $20 off of tickets on the SeatGeek app, make sure to stay till the end of the video. And now, life was never easy for Chris Jackson. Growing up without a father in Mississippi, Chris's mother worked her hardest to provide her sons with a good life, but still the family was very poor. On top of this, Chris spent his childhood in special classes, and it wasn't until the age of 17 that he would finally be diagnosed with Tourette's. Now, having a disease like Tourette's as a child can be very difficult. Most of the time, the disease seemed like a curse on Chris's life. There were moments where he couldn't leave a room until he turned off a light switch 100 times. Moments where he would break down crying after trying for 15 minutes just to tie his shoes just right. But sometimes the Tourette's would prove to be somewhat of a blessing, because the one thing in Chris's life that was always going well for him was basketball, and when practicing basketball, again, everything had to be just right. This was surely frustrating for Chris, but it did force him to practice the game practically non-stop. The reason for this was that every time Chris wanted to leave a gym, his disease forced him to swish 10 jump shots in a row. If even a single one of his shots grazed the rim, he would not allow himself to leave, and he was forced to start over. This meant that Chris spent a tremendous time practicing his shot, and by the time he reached high school, he was practically automatic from anywhere on the court. In fact, he was so good at free throws that he became a team hero after one practice, as before that practice, Chris's coach told the team that they could cut minutes off their practice time by making consecutive free throws. After Chris made 283 free throws in a row, his coach just simply called off practice. So with his incredible jump shot and dedication to the game, it should come as no surprise that Chris Jackson had tremendous success in high school. He was a two-time state player of the year. He averaged 30 points per game as a senior, and he was a McDonald's All-American. This incredible high school success led to him being recruited by LSU, where every so often, college basketball finds itself with a star player who plays the game in such an awe-inspiring way that he becomes a national sensation. This was the case for guys like Steph Curry, Jimmer Fredette, and yes, Chris Jackson. Because from the second he took the floor on a college basketball court, Chris solidified his reputation as a superstar gunner. In just his third game, he would score 48 points against Louisiana Tech, a game that would pave the way for things to come. As to sum up his freshman season, Chris set a national single game record for points by a freshman with 55 against Ole Miss, and he set a single season record for points by a freshman with 965, an average of 30.2 a game. Chris Jackson was the National Freshman of the Year. He was a first-team All-American, and again, he was a national sensation. In many ways that year, he was college basketball's version of Steph Curry, a guard who scared everyone on the court with his ability to pull up from anywhere. This talent to light it up had scouts fighting over who had the chance to draft Chris. And after a sophomore year that saw him put up 28 points per game next to a freshman Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Jackson declared for the NBA draft and was taken third by the Denver Nuggets. Now, heading into the NBA, Chris Jackson had tremendous expectations. I mean, he was so good that the Nuggets coach said that Chris Jackson reminded him of a 6'1" Michael Jordan, which is why it was such a surprise when Chris Jackson came into the NBA and sucked. Okay, maybe sucked is a harsh word here, but he certainly did not live up to the hype. In his rookie season, Chris put up just 14.1 points per game, and then in his second season, his averages dipped to just 10.3 points per game. And at the time, everyone had some kind of excuse for what was happening. Chris was injured, he was out of shape because he was injured, he wasn't getting the proper medication for his Tourette's. Again, everyone had their own belief here, but no one was right. What was really wrong with Chris was his mindset. In his early days in the NBA, Chris says that he just felt lost as a human being. Eventually, though, he did begin to find himself through his new religion, Islam. Seemingly out of nowhere, when Chris returned to the Nuggets for the 1993 season, he was a new man. This change in mindset allowed him to average 19.2 points per game, and he was named the NBA's most improved player. The man who was once labeled a bust had finally arrived in the NBA, and that summer he made his connection to his new religion even stronger by changing his name to Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. But now, let's fast forward to the 1996 basketball season, a year in which Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf decided that he was no longer going to stand for the American flag. He believed that the flag stood for tyranny and oppression, and so, as a devout Muslim, he felt that it was his duty to not stand for the flag. This didn't mean that he was trying to make any type of statement, though. In fact, his decision to not stand and salute the flag before games went unnoticed all the way until March. It was in March, though, when a newspaper reporter finally noticed Mahmoud's actions and wrote about them. Suddenly, just like that, Mahmoud began to draw heavy criticism and was almost immediately suspended by David Stern for one game due to a violation of NBA rules. Now, let's take a break for a second and talk about Colin Kaepernick. When Kaepernick began to take a knee for the national anthem, he of course set off a firestorm of controversy. The thing is, though, he also set off a firestorm of support. Guys like Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Cam Newton all have publicly stated that they support Kaepernick's decision and think that his protest has a chance to make a difference in this world. With that said, when Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf made his stand, no one really had his back. Sure, a few NBA players said they supported him when asked by media members, but no one openly came out and said they were with him. Which meant that unlike the Kaepernick situation and the situation in the NFL we have now, there weren't two sides arguing over what was right. The Abdul-Rauf situation was really just one side of very angry Americans claiming that Mahmoud's protest was unpatriotic. And so really, the second that he was suspended by David Stern, the entire basketball world turned against Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Fans and the media began to criticize everything about his religion. They said that he was selfish for fasting for Ramadan during the season, even though that was part of his religious beliefs and no one really cared when Hakeem Olajuwon did it. These same fans also ignored the great deeds of Mahmoud, such as the fact that he would often make it a point to go to the hoods of every city he stopped in during the NBA season to try and convince the young men there that there was a world outside of violence and drugs. And above everything else, fans ignored that again, Mahmoud wasn't trying to make a stand. At first, he attempted to stand for his beliefs in the most quiet way possible, and then, even after a reporter finally noticed, Mahmoud took his suspension and agreed to stand for the flag from then on. But the damage had already been done. After nearly making the All-Star team with a 19.2 point per game average in 1996, Mahmoud's career took a nosedive. Just 2 years later, at the young age of 29, no one in the NBA wanted him anymore, so he was forced to sign a contract in Turkey. Now, it is possible that maybe Mahmoud's decline had to do with a decline in his skills, but that's not what he believes. Mahmoud believes that after his incident and one-game suspension, the NBA basically blackballed him. He points to the fact that his team at the time, the Nuggets, traded him just 3 months after he was suspended. After that, the team he was traded to, the Kings, were also in on the blackball according to Mahmoud, with Abdul-Rauf saying, "But you can't just say, we're getting rid of him for that." That in this case meaning the incident. They had to create an environment where it was, let's change his minutes and let's mess up his rhythm. A lot of things began to happen. So definitely, that's why my career was cut short. And so there you have it, guys, the man who says he was blackballed by the NBA. Whether that's 100% true or not, I guess we'll never know. But I mean, he did go from averaging 19 points per game to out of the NBA in 2 seasons. So that's a little weird. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. And if you're new, make sure to subscribe. The NBA season is back. We have tons of new videos planned for you. So again, make sure to subscribe and make sure to turn on my channel notifications so you don't miss a video. And now, guys, let's talk about SeatGeek. So So SeatGeek is an app that takes all of the best ticket prices from around the internet and puts them all in one place for you to get the best deal. It's also really easy to see what the best deal is because SeatGeek scores every ticket from 0 to 100 based on how good that ticket's price is. On top of that, when you're choosing a ticket, you could see the view from the seats you would buy, which is awesome because it's kind of like you're previewing the experience you'd have. So if you want the best seats for the best prices, download SeatGeek right now and use the promo code 2KMike for $20 off your first order.